Hi, hello there, and welcome back to STEAM It with Steve. Today we're going to go through how to do the HSC Mathematics Standard 2 paper. So let's jump on in. So to start, printed off a copy here. This is the 2023 paper. And what you can see is you've got a reading time of 10 minutes, working time of 2 hours 30. You use the black, I'm just going to use the blue because that's my preference. And then you have your reference sheet that's been provided for you here. Now this reference sheet is gold. If you use this properly, it helps a whole heap with all the different questions. You're allowed to use a calculator. And then for questions 2, show relevant mathematical reasoning or calculations. Right centered number and student number at the top. And then here we go. So we've got 15 questions for multiple choice, and then 85 questions at the back. Now what I usually do at the start, I will always use a highlighter and I will go through and highlight the questions. So looking through here, trying to find important information. So 25,500, simple interest, first 2 years, and I need to go through and read through that. So I'm going to read through the whole paper like this first before I even start. So if Z score less than 1, so the number of bees in an observed was 14 days. The Pearson's correlation best describes. And while I'm doing this, I'm starting to think, oh, that's linear and positive, so that might help. A $65,000 truck, it depreciates 22 cents per kilometer, and then it had 132,600. Which of the 4 petrol pumps for each amount of petrol was purchased? Which one represents the best value? So we've got 21 there, 26, 25, and then 27. An item is purchased for $880 with 10% GST. What is the amount of GST included in this price? City A is latitude 34 south and 151 east. This is 32 degrees north of City A, and then 25 degrees of City A. That might help. What is the latitude and longitude of City B? Game involves a dice and a spinner, and looks like it's got 1 to 6, and this has got 1 to 4. The sum of the two numbers is attained. Table of scores is down below. So there's the spinner, there's the die, and then those are the values there. Those are the values, and then we add in, so we probably need to come back and fill that in later. So what's the probability of getting a score of 7 or more? The length and the width of a rectangle are measured to be 8 centimeters and 5 centimeters respectively to the nearest centimeter. So it's been rounded. What's the lower and upper bounds of the area of the rectangle? An amount of 25,000 is invested for 6 years at a rate of 8%, and it's compounding quarterly. Write an expression of the investment after 6 years in dollars. A bag of jelly beans has 150 jelly beans, ratio of 2 to 3, it eats 10. What's the new ratio of red to blue? So it's going to get reduced. Cylindrical pipe has a radius of 12.5 centimeters, filled to the depth of D, and the surface of the water is at 20 centimeters. So that's across the pipe. So you've got 120, that's the radius there, 20, and then we can see those are equivalents. That might help later. And then D, and this is not to scale, so that might help as well. An item is discounted by 30%, and then a further discount of 20% is applied. What's the new percentage discount? A network with source A and sink B is shown. The capacity of the two paths are labeled and cut in the diagrams has a capacity of 30. So this is where 30 is at. And then there's 15 and 20 when it pops out, and B. So it starts at A, the arrows show the direction it's moving, hits this, and that's where the capacity of 30 is, and it can keep moving. Which of the following statements is correct? That's a bit tricky one. So it's got 30 going through, it's got a bottleneck of 15 and 20, so I'd say a maximum flow of 30 or less, because you can't go past those. So Ashland's mathematics needs to complete 6 tests, each worth 100 marks. The first 5 tests are calculated. He would need a mark of 90 in the final test in order to have a mean mark of 80 for the 6 tests. Was Ashland's first 5 tests. Cool. So that's all the multiple choice sections sort of done and dusted there. And by reading it first, it does help when you get it back and have to execute it. So the graph of Peter's heart rate in beats per minute, first 60 minutes, marathon. We've got 20 minutes. And she starts the marathon at 10 a.m. What would heart rate be when it's 140? So there's a heart rate there, and then there's the time there. Table shows different distances around to the nearest 10 kilometres between Australian cities. So you've got Adelaide, Brisbane, Darwin, Hobart, Perth, and Sydney with these different letters. And it looks like it's symmetrical, so I just worry about these ones above and use those as reference points. Use the information in the table, complete the network diagram, where each edge is labelled with distances. Cool. Massa wants to travel from Hobart to Darwin. So from there to there. We'll come back to that. And wants to change planes only once. Use the network diagram. See how many kilometres she will travel by plane. Histogram question. So histogram shows the summary of the test scores. So there's the scores and the frequency. Provide two features of the histogram that indicates the data comes from a normal distribution. Network of running tracks, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, is shown. A typical runner can take along each track, so that's how many kilometers they can travel. What path could a typical runner run from point A to point D? So there's A, and we want to get down to D, in the shortest time. The spanning tree of the network is shown above, so that's what happens there. Is this a minimum spanning tree? And give your reason for the answer. I'll come back to that one. So on another planet, a ball is launched vertically from the air into the air from the ground. The height above the ground is h meters and uses this function here. And then there's the graph. There's the height of the ball, and then there's the time. Based on the graph, what's the maximum height of the ball? Based on the graph, what 2 times is it at 3/4 of the maximum height? That's worth 2 marks. Electricity provider A charges 25 cents per kilowatt hour, plus a fixed month of $40. Complete the table for A. So there's that. There's the monthly charge, so it's 400 times the 25 to work that out. Whereas provider B charges 35 cents with no monthly charges, so it's going to start at 0. And the graph below shows how provider B, so that's why provider B goes up like that. So that's B. On the grid paper below, show provider A's change in table. Put the 2 graphs to determine the number of kilowatts per month, which provider A and provider B charge the same amount. Customer used an average of 80 kilowatts, and then A or B, which one's the cheaper option and by how much. The braking distance of a car is measured in meters and is proportional to the square of its speed and can be represented with this formula, where K is the constant. What's the braking distance for a car traveling at 50 kilometers per hour is 20 meters. So find the value of K first, and then what's the braking distance using that value, I'm guessing. Find the speed when it's 90. 100 tickets are sold in a raffle offering 2 prizes. Hazel buys 5 of the tickets and then 5 of the random prizes for the first prize. The second ticket is drawn from the remaining tickets. What's the probability that Hazel wins both prizes? And then we've got the diagram shows a cross section of the wall of the creek. So we've got 8 there, 1.9, 2.7, 1.7. 2 applications of the trapezoidal rule, and the area of the cross section to estimate the area of the wall. The wall has a uniform thickness of 80 centimeters. Weight of 1 meters cubed of concrete is 3.52 tons. How many tons are there in the wall? 2 significant figures. So the future value interest rates for the annuity of $1 is shown below. We've got the period, and then we've got the different rates, and then we have these different values up here for percentages, and then these are the different rates. Mickey wants to save $450,000 for 10 years at 6%. How much should we contribute each year? Give your answer to the nearest dollar. Instead, Mickey decides to contribute for $8,535 for 10 years, paying 6%. How much will Mickey have at the end of 10 years? Kim is building a path in the garden as shown below, 0.5 wide. So it's 0.5 wide, that's 3, that's 8. And then there's going to be a path that has that 0.5. Find the area of the path. Kim is then mixing some concrete for the path. It's mixed at a ratio of 4 to 1. It's got crushing rock, sand, and cement. She needs 2.1 tons of concrete in the correct ratio. How many bags of cement will she need? Diagram below shows 3 locations, X, Y, Z, 120, 15 kilometers, 14 kilometers, and X lies due west of Y. So we've got 120, 15, 40. P lies on the line joining from CY and it's due south of 6X, sorry. So we've got X, Y, P, so X and Y. What is this bearing of C from X to the nearest degree? And then a plumber leases equipment valued at $60,000. They can do straight line depreciation. So the salvage value of the equipment at any time can be calculated using either of the 2 methods or declining method, which is 12% per annum. Calculate the method of depreciation to find the salvage value at the end of lower 3 years. Justify, which is the appropriate with mathematical calculations. Table below, monthly payments again. So we've got term of the loan, the interest rate. So we've got these different interest rates down here. And then this is the time in years. Couple want to borrow $520,000 at 8% for 25 years. What will the couple repay in total for this? Then they can do 7%. So Chris is borrowing some money at 7%. Repay the loan over 15 years for $3,596. How much does Chris borrow? The receipt from a supermarket shows the total of $4.87. GST is shown to be that. So straight away that's triggering something that's wrong because it's that much, it's a little bit less. GST has a rate of 10%. It's only charged on some items. So for example, fruit doesn't get GST charged to it. What is the value of the items that did not have GST? A function center employs staff to take the necessary tasks and complete between one end of the function and the beginning. The network diagram shown below is taken in hours, needed to be completed. So it's going to start from there and finish there. Find 2 critical paths, so not just one. That's going to be interesting. And the function center wants to decrease the length of each critical path by 3 hours. They can do this by hiring more staff to do just one of the tasks, so that it takes less time to complete. For which task could the center hire the staff, and for how long to ensure all that would be completed in 14 hours? Ali has a credit card with no interest-free period. Interest rate is charged at 13.5%, compounded daily, like most good credit cards. During the month, Ali has only made one purchase of $450, and the full amount will be paid in 21 days later. Calculate the amount charged, and it's going to be charged for these 21 days, and then what percentage of the full amount is repaid in interest. Give the answer to 2 decimal place. Diagram below shows the shape APQBCD. It's got a rectangle, then an arc. So there's the rectangle, there's the arc part. So the rectangle part has 8 and 3.6. And PQ is in a circle. It has a radius of 2.1 and 110 degrees. What's the perimeter of this shape? All the way around the edge. Like so. University uses gas to heat its buildings over a period of 10 weeks. Each day the gas is used to measure different megawatts and the average temperature outside. Using X as the average daily temperature outside and Y as the total gas, the equation of the least square regression was found. The equation predicts that when it's 0 degrees, it has that. So there's our Y-intercept. And then it has 10 temperatures measured at these different values. The total gas for the 10 days was this. So we can find that. Using bivariant data set, the least square regression passes through any point there, where X bar is the sample mean of the X values and Y bar is the sample value of the Y values. Using the information, plot the point XY and then the Y-intercept of the regression on the grid. So there's our megawatts and then there's our consumption. What is the equation of the regression line and in which context is the data set? Identify one problem using the regression when it's outside the average gets to 23 degrees. Diagram below shows the triangle ABC has this side here, this angle. Calculate the area of the triangle to the nearest square meter. Following formula can be used to calculate blood alcohol, which is called BAC. So BAC is there. So you've got N, H, and M. So N is the number of standard drinks consumed, M is the person's body weight, and then H is the hours of drinking. Cameron is 75 kilograms, so there's the weight. His BAC was 0 when he started drinking alcohol at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. he's consumed 3 standard drinks, and his BAC was up to 0.02. Using the formula, estimate at what time Cameron began drinking alcohol to the nearest minute. Table below shows personal tax income and different taxable values. So you've got these different rates. And then this is the tax payable. We want to find that X value, it looks like. So a person with a taxable income of $90,000 pays 25.8%. What is the value of X in the table? Random variable is normally distributed with a mean of 0. So we've got a nice graph, standard deviation of 1. The table of the probability of random is listed below for Z, and the positive values are Z. So we've got Z, probability, and all these values. The probability values of the table are represented in the shaded area of the diagram below, which is in here. The weight of average male koalas, normally distributed with a mean of 10.4 and a standard deviation of 1.5. In a group of 400 koalas, how much would you expect to weigh more than 11.93? So the mean was there, which would be that. That would be there, which would be that. We'll come back to that. Cool. So we've looked at all the questions first before we've started. By doing that, it's really important. Now you've got a certain amount of time that you can use for perusal, and you can't highlight like that, but you can at least read through the whole paper and then come back and do what I just did then. So to start, here we go. Okay, the amount of 25,000 is invested at a simple interest rate of 3%. How much was earned in the first 2 years? So we can go simple interest equals PIN. So we've got 2,500 times 0.03 times 2. And grab our calculator. So 2,500 times 0.03 times 2. And then we press equals and we get 150. So it would have been B. Normally distributed was the approximate percentage score of the Z-score less than 1. So if it's normally distributed using this one here, and with a Z-score less than 1 would be 1 across here, and we know this represents 50%, and then this area in here, I think it's 68, yep, so 68%. So we do 68% divided by 2. So this is 34. So now we've got 50% plus 34, which gives us 84. So it would have been C. Right, question number 3. Number of bees in the hive was over 14 days. And we've got this nice sort of correlation here of a line. So the Pearson's correlation, so the line would not be perfectly accurate because you can see there is some variation there between the line and the points. That's a really rough line as well, but it's not super bad. So because it's positive, it's either 0.2 or 0.8. But because it's pretty close, I would say the Pearson's correlation is 0.8. Delivery truck valued at $65,000 when new. The value of the truck depreciates at a rate of 22 cents per kilometer traveled. What's the value of the truck after traveling that distance? So we're going to work out the 132,600 times 0.22. So they've lost 29,000. So they've lost 29,172. So then the total, the new value, is equal to the 65,000 minus the 29,172. So we just take that away, and we get 35,800. Obviously, I'll put negative in, but that's okay. Right, 4 pumps are shown with the petrol purchase. Which one represents the best value? So we've got this amount per litre. So let's work out how much per litre we're getting. So 46.7 divided by 24. And this one gives us 1.9. So A is 1.94583 recurring. Then we do the same. So we'll go 48.5 divided by 25. And that gave us 1.94. So at the moment, B is looking pretty good. And then we went 52.3 divided by 26. So this is 2.011, so that's not going to be it anyway. And then 54.8 divided by 27. And we got 2.02, so it would be B. Item was purchased with the total price of $880, including 10%, was the amount of GST paid on this. So the final price was $880. We would then have to work out what the 10% of that. So that represents 110 equals 880. So 100% would be 880 divided by 1.1 would be 800, and then therefore 10% is just the 80. So it would be C. 7, so city is at 34 degrees south, and I like drawing a real rough map of this. So there's the center, the UK, and then there's the equator. So it's 34 degrees south, and then east. So it'd be roughly about there. And then it goes north 72, so it's going to be in this quadrant now, but then 25 degrees. So that's where city B is. There's A, there's B, so that helps give you some ideas of what we can do. So we know it's 34, goes 72 degrees north. So if we do 72 minus the 34, we've gone 38 up. Right, so it's either going to be these two. And then we now know it's 151 degrees east. So then we want to go 25 degrees west. So we just take that away. So 151 minus the 25, and we get 126. So that's just C. Game involving some dice and a spinner. So you got the total dice there. Total table is partially complete. So just so you can see it, you could fill in those in, and then that would be +1. Then +2 to each one of these. So then that gives you 6, 7, 8. And then hopefully you should start seeing there's a diagonal here. So then that's what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 8 and 9. What's the probability of getting 7 or more? So there's this nice line through here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Whoops, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 10. And then there was 6 times 4, which is 24. And that can be then reduced down. We'll do it, divide them both by 2. So we get 5 over 12. So that would be D. Time, doing all right. So the length and the width of the rectangle are measured by 8 and 5 centimeters, respectively, to the nearest centimeter. What's the lower and upper bound for the area of this triangle? So if you measure to the lowest measurement, that would be rounded up, would be 7.5, and then you would times that by 4.5. So you go 7.5 times 4.5, and we get 33.75. Then we do the same with the upper bound, where it would be rounded down. So 8.5 times 5.5. So we got 8.5 times 5.5, and we get 46.75. So that would be D. Total amount 25,000 is invested for 6 years. The interest rate of 8% compounding quarterly. Which expression after 6 years? So it's compounding quarterly. So 6 times 4. Would give us the 24, so it's either these ones, and then the interest rate is you want to do 8% divided by 4, which gives us 2%. So therefore it would be A. Bag of jelly beans is 150 of them. Some are red, some are blue. The ratio of the beans is 2 to 3. So we've got 5 parts then. So easiest way to visualize that. 2, 3. There we go. So this much here is red to this much, that's blue. Sophie eats 10 of each color. What is the new ratio of red to blue? So let's work out how many red there are. So there's 5 parts. So each part is equal to 150 divided by 5, which gives you 30. So then how many red there are is equal to 30 times 2. So there's 60 red to start. And then the blue is equal to 30 times 3, which gives us 90. So the red new is equal to the 60 minus 10, which gives you 50. And then the blue new is equal to 90 minus 10, which gives you 80. So now the new ratio is going to be 50 is to 80. And then we can cancel out the zeros. So we get 5 is to 8, or C. Cylindrical pipe with radius of 12.5 centimeters is filled with water to the depth of D centimeters. And what you're going to notice here is the surface of the water is 20 centimeters, so that's that distance there. So this is 10, so that means that's 10 there as well. So we can find this little x mystery distance here, and then the whole distance from there down is the same as that to find D. Right, so the first step, we could use a bit of Pythag. So we could go x squared is equal to 12.5 squared minus 10 squared. 5 squared minus 10 squared. And we get 56.25. So then x is equal to the square root of 56.25. So we square root that answer, and we get 7.5. Must be almost related to a triad. Then, to find the actual distance of D, D is equal to 12.5 minus the 7.5, which will give us 5. So 12 is then B. An item is then discounted by 30%, and a further discount of 20% is then applied to the reduced amount. So you had the original item there. It's reduced by 30%, so now you've only got 70% left. And then of that 70%, you get 20% more off. So it's going to reduce it even further by 20% of that 70%. So let's go 20% of 70%, which is basically 0.2 times 0.7, which will equal 0.14. So then in total, hopefully you can see that you've lost the 30% and then the 14% on top of it. So that would give you 44% reduction. So you've lost 30%. So the total loss is equal to 30% plus the 14%, which equals 44%. Cool. Network, source A, sink B. So we're going from A to B. The capacity of the two paths are labeled. Cut and shown on the diagram is capacity of 30%. Which of the following is statement is true? The maximum flow at that point, we don't know what's coming in there at the moment. We know it can go down to 15 and down to 20. So when we're dealing with this, that would be the maximum flow coming through. So it's sort of bottlenecked at these points. So the maximum flow would be the C. So 30 or less. Ashan's mathematics class completes 6 tests, each worth 100 marks. After completing the first 5 tests, he calculated that it needed the mark of 90 to the final test in order to have a mean of 80 for the 6 tests. What is Ashan's mean mark? So we know he currently has, what's the mean mark we want? So he's done 6 tests, each worth 100. After completing the first 5, he's calculated that he would need a mark of 90 in the final test in order to have a mean mark of 80. So, and then that's out of the 6 tests. So then this x minus the 90, no, plus the 90, sorry, because this is the mean. So this is the mean previously for the first 5 tests. If we add 90 on and then divided it by 6, that would equal the 80 together. So x bar plus 90 equals 6 8 48. And take away 90. Take away 90. No, that's not bar. That's the sum. Sorry. So that's the sum. So the sum of all the values would equal what? 480. Take away 90. 390. Here we go. Had a little blank there. 480 minus 90. Yeah, 390. I was right. So then that's the total sum of all the scores or that he got then to work out what was the mean for the first 5. So the mean is equal to 390. Oh, sorry, 390 divided by 5. So we divide that by 5 and we get 78. Or 8. Cool. So that's done. That's done. Here we go. 16. So P's heart rate at 20 minutes since she started. So if we go across to 20, 120. So it's 120, but then it's also put it in beats per minute. Peter started the marathon at 10 a.m. What rate? What time would her heart rate reach? 140. So we go across here to 140. So it's 30 minutes to start at 10 a.m. She would start at 10:30 a.m. Righto, here's the table. So we've got to look at where we can go. So from Adelaide, we can go to Hobart. And that will take us, what, 1,170. Then we can go from Adelaide to Perth. So Adelaide to Perth. And that's 2,120. Then we can go from Brisbane to Darwin. And Brisbane to Darwin's 2,850. Or we can go from Brisbane to Sydney. And that's 750. Then we can go from Darwin to Perth, which we've already got. So we've got 2,600. Or we can go from Darwin to Sydney. And that's 3,150. And the last one, we can go Hobart to Sydney. So Hobart to Sydney, 1,040. And then the last one, we can go from Perth to Sydney. So straight across the middle there. So Sydney seems to be the main sort of hub. And you can see that because it's got most of the ones down there. So Sydney to Perth was done in 3,270 kilometers. Massa wants to go from Hobart to Darwin. And she wants to change planes only once. So she can't go to Adelaide. That's not going to work. She can go to Sydney and then go straight through. So using the network diagram, calculate how many kilometers they'll travel. So total distance equals the 10,040 kilometers plus the 3,150 kilometers. Do it. So it's 4,190 kilometers. Cool. So next one, histogram shown a summary of scores on a test. Provide 2 features of the histogram to indicate that the data came from 2 normal distributed. So if we look here, it's got one mode because it's only got the highest point there. And if we went there, it's got a nice little butterfly pattern, so it looks symmetrical on either side of it. So we would say the graph is symmetrical in shape, and the graph is unimodal. Cool. 19. Network of running tracks connects the points A, B, C, blah, 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 blah. The number of each edge represents the time in minutes that a typical runner can take to run it along each track. So we're starting from A, we're going to D. What was the path a typical runner can run from A to D in the shortest time? So five, it looks like an AFGD. So if we went back from D, we can either go 15, 5, or 9. So the 5 looks the fastest. And then from there, the 9, 5. So the 5 is the fastest back there. But then you can also go up. So you can go 5 from A to F, or you can go A to B, and then B to F. So it looks like the speediest way is to go from A to B, B to F, and straight through. So we go A to B, F, G, and then D. Spanning tree of the network above is shown. So we've got A, B, etc. Is it a minimum spanning tree? Test your answer. So it looks like they chose F at the starting point. So F can connect to 1, 2, what's the next one? 4, yep, and then 5. So it went 1, 2, that's all good. Then at that point there, 3 would be the closest. So this is the algorithm, basically looking for the smallest path each time. Then you have either 11 or 5, so you would go 5. Then you would have 5, and then you would go 9. So therefore that isn't it. It is not. To get to C, it is faster to use CD instead of BC. Radio, so the height above the ground in meters is h. We can model using the function h is equal to negative 6t squared plus 24t, where t is measured in seconds. The graph is shown with this function. So we go across here. 2 seconds looks like the highest point, which looks like about there. And each box looks like it's going up by 1, so that would be 24. So based on the graph, you would be at 24 meters. So based on the graph, there's 2 times the ball is at 3/4. So we would just do 24 times 3/4. So that gives us 6, which gives us 18. So we're going to go across every single time that equals 18, which is this point here. So there's one there, and there's one there. So based on the graph, at what 2 times was that happening? So you would just write at 1 second and 3 seconds. Cool. So electricity provider A charges 25 cents per kilowatt for electricity plus a minimum fixed charge of $40. Complete the table showing provider A's monthly charge for different levels of electricity use. So it goes 0, 400, and 1,000. So monthly charge. So this is provider A, and these are the rules. So 25 cents per kilowatt. We've done 400 kilowatts. So we'll do 400 times 25. Sorry, 0.25. Like that. And we get 100. but then we would add on the 40. So that would be $140, which is this one here. And then I think we have to keep going with this. So on the grid paper, previous graph, provider A's charges from the table in part A. So at 0, it's at 40. At 400, it's 140, which is that point there. And then at 1,000, it's 290, which would be not 300 with there, so 390 there. And you grab your ruler and carefully go through to the end. So this one goes up slower, and then there's this nice little midsection point there where the thing works out. So use the two graphs to determine the number of kilowatts per hour for which provider and A and B charge the same amount. Well, that's just going to be the 400 we just saw over here. So that 400 is that nice little sweet spot. So that's the total amount that they get charged. So they both get charged 140. So both charged 140 with 400 kilowatt hours being used. Customer would use an average of 800 kilowatts per hour. Which provider would be better, and which provider A or B would provide the cheaper option, and by how much? So we'll go provider A. And let's go across. So 800 would be $240. Provider B would equal $280. And then the difference equals the 280 minus the 240 would equal $40. So therefore, provider A, that's not so good, A, let's try again, A is cheaper by $40. Done. So the braking distance of a car measured in meters is directly proportional to the square of the square of its speed in kilometers, which can be represented by the equation braking distance is equal to k times the speed squared, where k is the constant value and a variation. The braking distance of the car traveling at 50 kilometers per hour is 20. So we've got the braking distance already. So we've got 20. And then that's equal to k, which we don't know yet, times 50 all squared. So now we've got to go through and rearrange this. So we go 20 is equal to 50 squared, which is 2,500. Okay. And then we need to go through and finish off the k value. So k is equal to 20 divided by 2,500. And then we just grab our calculator. So 50 divided by 2,550. So 20 divided by 50 squared gives us that. 0.008. Cool. What is the braking distance when the car speed is at 90 kilometers? So brake distance is equal to 0.008 times 90 squared. So we go 90 squared. And we get 64.8, and then that's always measured in meters. So then that's how many meters you traveled. 100 tickets are sold in a raffle which is offered. Hazel buys 5 of the tickets. The tickets are drawn at random for the first prize. The second ticket is drawn from the remaining tickets from the other. Was a probability that Hazel wins both prizes. So there's 2 prizes and she has 5 of the tickets. So the probability of Hazel winning both equals, well, there was 5 of the tickets originally out of the 100 times, and she gets the next one, so it'd be 4 out of 99. Then we can just reduce that. So what's that going to equal? 20 over 9900. That cancels out. So you get 1 over what's 990 divided by 2? 495. So using, how are we going for time? Yep, doing all right. Keep going. Here we go. So the cross section of the wall in the creek. So you got 1.9, 1.7, 2.7, and 80 across. So this is both going to be 4 and 4. And when we use the trapezoidal rule, what we're doing is we're effectively doing that. And then that again. So we're trying to find the area of a trapezium. And you can see that there's going to be a little bit of error mistake in there, which is fine. So you use the application trapezoidal rule to estimate the cross section. So we know it's going to go across. So H is the cut that we use. So we're using this rule here. So we would go area is equal to 4 on 2. So this is 1. So we'll call this area 1. Call this area 2. 4 on 2 times 1.9 plus 2.7. So do the bracket bit first. So 1.9 plus 1.7. 1.9 plus 2.7 gave us 4.6 times 4 divided by 2. So that's 9.2 meters squared. Then area 2 equals 4 on 2 times 2.7 plus 1.7. And this is approximate equal as well, sorry. So we'll go 2.7 plus 1.7 gives us that, times 4 gives us that, divided by 2. So that equals approximately 8.8 meters squared. So then the area total is equal to area 1 plus area 2, which equals 9.2 plus 8.8, which then equals 18 meters squared, approximately. So the wall has a uniform thickness of 80 centimeters and a weight of 1 meters cubed per ton. How many tons of concrete in the wall? Give the answer to 2 significant figures. So then the volume is equal to the 18 times the 0.8. So we have 14.4 meters cubed. And then 1 meters cubed is equal to 3.52 tons. So then the tons is equal to 14.4 times the 3.52. Times 3.52. So then we got 50.688, but then give your answer to two significant figures. So these two here, that means that rounds up because that's going to go up. So that equals 51 tons. Righto, table of furniture future value interest with an annuity of $1 is shown. So you got 1.53%, etc. Mickey wants to save $450,000 over 10 years, so straight away using that row. The interest rate is 6%, compounding annually. How much should Mickey contribute each year? So that's pretty easy. We're going across 10 and 6, so we get that. But they want to save that amount. So to get the 450,000 is a little bit trickier. What we have to do is the 450,000 divided by these interest factors. So total, the value is going to equal the 450,000 divided by the 13.181. So 450,000 divided by 13.181. And to the nearest dollar, so we just round that down. So that would be $34,140. Instead, Mickey decides to contribute $8,535 every 3 months for 10 years to an annuity paying 6% per annum compounding quarterly. How much will Mickey have at the end? So compounding quarterly, so 6% compounding quarterly. Instead of 6%, we're now going to be dealing with this one. And instead of 10 years, we're going to do, all right, so the interest rate is equal to 6% divided by 4, which equals 1.5%. And the number of compounds then is equal to the 10 years times 4, which will give you 40, which is that amount there. How much will Mickey have at the end of the 10 years? So now we have to use that rate factor again. Where was it? The 10 years. And we're putting this amount in each time. So it's going to be this amount here. So the final amount equals 54.268 times the amount that was invested, which was the 8,535. So then we go 54.268 times 8,535. How much will Mickey have at the end? 463,177.38. Rightio. So Kim is building a garden around the path. Find the area of the path. So the area total, we've got length times width, so 3 times 8 is 24 meters squared. And then the smaller shape, so we've got area smaller, so this is area the bigger one, is going to be, instead of 0.8 meters, we're going to take 1 meter off, so it's going to then be 7 times 2.5. We get 17.5 meters squared. So then the area total is equal to the area of the big one minus the area of the small one, which equals 24 minus the 17.5. 24 minus the 17.5, which gave us that. So then we got the 6.5 on the end. Kim is then mixing some concrete for the path using the ratio made up crushed rock, sand, and cement in the ratio of 4 to 2 to 1 by weight. She needs 2.1 tons of concrete mixed in the correct ratio. Calculate how many bags of cement, so 15 kilograms, which is cement, which is the last bit here, she will need. Right, and then how much is the bag? 15 kilos. So she's got 2.1 tons of concrete mix. And then she's got this. So we want to work out the parts. So the concrete part. So there's 4 plus 2 plus, so the parts, let's do that first, equals 4 plus 2 plus 1, which equals 7. So the concrete part is equal to 2.1 divided by 7, which then equals what, 0.3 tons, which equals 300 kilograms, because there's 1,000 kilograms in a ton. Calculate how many bags is needed. So the bags then equals the 300 kilograms divided by the 15. Grab a calculator. Gonna need 20 bags. Cool. Next one. Diagram shows the location of three places X, Y, and Z. Y is on a bearing of 120 degrees and then 15 kilometers from X. C is at 40 kilometers from X, lies due west of Y. P lies on the line C, Y, and due south. So you got this, you got 15 kilometers, and then you're going from X to P. So we want to find this distance. So if we know this is 120, we could just use the angle. So angle P X Y is equal to 180 minus 120, gives you 60 degrees. Then we can just use good old trig. So we've got the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So we're going to do cos, based off the rules over here. So cos 60 degrees is equal to, let's call it xp over 15. So x equals 15. Cos 60 should be 7.5. 60. Yep. So 7.5 kilometers. What is the bearing of C to X? So C to X, going from the top there. So we probably need to find that angle in there. We now know that. We know that. So So calculate the bearing of C from X. So we're at X. How many degrees around does it go? So we need to find this bit in here. We know that's 7.5. Now that's 40. So then we've got an angle. So cos of angle CXP is equal to adjacent, which is 7.5 over 40. So angle CXP equals cos inverse cos 7.5 divided by 40. So 7.5 divided by 40 gives us that, and then we inverse cos it. So that equals 79.119 degrees. Then the bearing is equal to the 180 plus that. So plus 180. And we get 259. And then to the nearest degree is just that. Plumber leases equipment valued at $60,000. Salvage value of the equipment. Calculate either two methods of depreciation. So the straight line method is $33,500, so it's a straight, nice and linear. And then the depreciation in both. So if we use the straight line, is equal to the $60,000 we started with minus 3 lots of 3,500. So 3 times 3,500 gives us that. And we do 60,000 minus that answer. So we get 4,950. $49,500. So then the declining balance method is a little bit different. So that's when it's going to be depreciating each year, but then it's like interest on its interest. So the decline is this guy here. Is equal to VO bracket 1 minus R to the power N. So in this case here, it was the $60,000. Bracket 1 minus 0.12 to the power of 3. And then I just do what's inside the brackets first. So 1 minus 0.12 gives us that. The power of 3 gave us that. So 68% of the original amount. So times 60,000, and we get $40,880.32. So under decline method, which one would you prefer to do? Well, we declined it a lot more. So this provides a lower salvage value. So therefore, decline salvage method gives a lower value than the straight line. Cool. So a couple borrows $520,000 to buy a house at 8% over 25 years. How much does the couple repay in total for this loan? So they've borrowed $520,000. They have an interest rate of 8%, and then that's done over the 25 years. So how much does the couple have to repay in total? So what happens here, we have a couple repaying in the total of this loan. $520,000 was the amount, 8% was the interest rate, and it was for 25 years. So there's this value here for the $1,000 per unit. So to work out the repayment or repaid amount is equal to the 520,000 divided by 1,000. Then, because it's 25 years at 8%, 25 years, 8%, that's the special factor. So therefore we times that then by 7.72. So then we have 520,000 times the 7.72, like that. And that gives us $4,014.40. Right. Now that's the repayments for each month. So each month the repayments that they need to do is that. So then the total repayment is equal to 4,014.40 times the amount of years. So that would be 25 years times 12 months. So times that by 25, times that by 12. Holy dooly, that's a lot of money. So $1,204,320. Chris then borrows the some money at 7% per annum. Chris will repay the loan over 15 years, paying $3,596 per month. So we go across here to the 15 and 7%. So we got 8.99. And then what happens here is instead of timesing by the amount, we're going to divide to make it bigger. So the amount borrowed equals the 3,596 over the 8.99. 96 divided by 8.99. Oh, and then sorry, need to times that by 1,000. So that gives us 400 big ones. A receipt from a supermarket shows a total of $124.87. The GST shown on the receipt is $3.86. GST is at a rate of 10% and is charged on some items. So fresh produce, for example, doesn't get charged GST. What is the value of the items that did not have GST? So 10% was equal to the $3.86. So 100% of the amount was equal to $38.60. So this is how much the item cost with the GST attached onto it, without the GST attached. So then the supermarkets charge this amount. You've lost the GST amount, which is this, and then this is the amount of GST that was charged. So GST items is equal to the $124.87 minus the $38.60 minus the $3.86. Here we go, 124.87 minus the 38.60 minus the $3.86. That gives us $82.41. How are we going for time? Yep, doing all right. So the function centered employs staff that all necessary tasks can be completed between the end of one function to the other end. The network diagram shows the time taken in hours for the task that needs to be completed. So we're going from here all the way to the end. So here's the start, here's the end. Task needs to be completed. Right, find two critical paths. All right, so if we go from the start to there, longest time is going to take 4. We then go to there, it's going to take 6. Goes 4 to 2, and then 6 is also 6. 2 and 7. So we've got H and then I as well. So we've got H to I is 9, and then 4, that's 6. So 9 is going to take the longest there, which is that path there. And then to get to this point here, 6 or 9 or 4, so that can take 13. And then 13 to 4, that will give you 17. And the same with that way. Yep, 17. And the 2 to the 12, nah, so that's 14. So, sorry, and then that was 2 there. So there's two paths. There's this one up here that gives 17 as well, and then this one. So you can either go, you definitely have to go down this way, then you have to go up here, then you can go this way, or alternatively, you can go that way. So the two critical paths, the first one is H to I to K, and the second one is H to I to G to C. The function center wants to decrease the length of each critical path by 3 hours. They can do this by length of each critical path, so both options, by 3 hours. They can do this by hiring more staff to do one of the tasks so it takes less time. So you want to reduce it by 3 hours. More staff. For which task would the center hire more staff, and how long should that task take to ensure that all tasks are completed in 14 hours? So it's done in 17 hours in total if you did follow that path. But it's for both. Each critical path. So the I would have to be reduced. Therefore, I would get more staff to reduce time by 3 hours. In doing so, I will only take 4 hours to complete, bringing down the time for all tasks to be complete to 14 hours. Done. So Ali has a credit card which has no interest-free period. Interest is charged at 13.5% per annum, compounded daily on the amount owed. During the month, she made one purchase of $450 using the credit card. The full amount owing is repaid 21 days later. Calculate the amount of interest charged on the purchase, assuming the interest is charged for 21 days. So this is a compound interest question. So the amount charged is going to equal to the $450 so it's the $450 times 1 plus the 13.5%, so 0.135 over 365 to the power of the 21 days. So we've got 450. Let's do it the way I usually do it. 0.135 divided by 365 gives us that, plus 1 gives us that. To the power of 21 gives us that, and then times by 450. So it equals $453.51. We round it up. So then the question is, calculate the amount of interest charged on the purchase. So that's how much is owed. The interest then is equal to the 450 minus the 453.51. which will then give you $3.51. So what percentage of the full amount repaid is the interest? Give the answer to 2 decimal place. So the full amount is equal to, what's going to be the $3.51 divided by the 453.31. So 3.51 divided by the answer, which equals 0.007739, blah, blah, blah. What percentage is repaid? Give the answer to 2 decimal place. So then that's equal to 0. Shift across 277%. Diagram below shows a shape consists of a rectangle ABCD with this arc PQ on side AB. The length ABC is 3.6. Yep, and the radius is 2.1. POQ is 110. Radius is 2.1. Perimeter of this gives the answer to the full blah blah blah. So we want to find PQ. So this one here will work. So that's the length of the arc. So we've got 110 degrees divided by 360 times 2 times pi times 2.1. So we go 110 divided by 360 gives us that, times 2 times pi times 2.1. So we get 4.03. Well, how many decimal place? 1 decimal place. So we'll give a bit of accuracy to it. And then that's meters. So then we also want to find this distance here. So we need to find, we'll call that PQ arc. So if we want to find PQ, what will we do? We've got this side, this angle, this side, so we can use the cosine rule. So PQ squared equals 2.1 squared plus 2.1 squared minus 2 lots of 2.1 times 2.1 cos 1110. So if we go through and solve that now, I usually do the back bit first. So I go 2 times 2.1 times 2.1 times cos 1110. So I get that. And then I'll go 2.1 squared plus 2.1 squared minus that answer. Gives us that. 661,766. Then PQ equals the square root of 11.83661766. Square root of the answer. And we get 3.4404 meters. Cool. So now the perimeter is equal to AD, which is 3.6 plus 8 plus 3.6 plus 8 minus 3.4404 plus the 4.0317105. So we'll go 8 minus that answer, which gives us that. Then we add 3.6 plus 3.6 plus 8 plus 4.037,105. And then we get that, 1 decimal place, so that's just going to be 23.8 meters. Do one at a time. Here we go. So the university uses gas to heat its buildings over a period of 10 weeks during winter. Gases, each day was measured in megawatts and has an average temperature outside each day. It was recorded in degrees Celsius. Using X as the average daily outside temperature, X was the total amount of the gas used. The equation for the least squared regression was found. The equation of the regression line predicts that the temperature was 0 degrees and the daily gas was that. So there's the y-intercept. The 10 temperature measures were this, where the total gas used for the 10 weekdays was 1,840 megawatts. Using bivariant data set and least squared regression through the data points x and y, has a sample mean of x values and y. Use the information provided to plot the x mean and the y mean, and then the y-intercept of the least squared. So that's easy for the y-intercept is 2,336. To 23246. That's 1 point there. And then the 10 temperatures were this. So the average, okay. So x bar would equal 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 10 all over 10. Grab that. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 10. Divide by 10. We get 5 degrees for the x, and then the y hat, what would that be? So total gas was, okay, for 10 days with 840 divided by 10, so we get 184. So we go across here to 5 and then 2, 4. I'm guessing we're going to need to do, what's the equation for the regression line? Let's just put a line through just so we've seen it. So it looks like it's going to conk out at 8. I know that would keep going on for a while because it's gone up by what, 10 each time. So that's the last accurate point. So what's the equation for this line? So if we go y equals mx plus b, b equals what, 2, where was the y, is that 236? Now we've got the equation y equals mx plus 236, and m, do rise over run, so what's the two values we've got? 1, yeah, 184 minus 236 all over 5 minus 0. Negative 52. 5. Negative 10.4. Therefore, y equals negative 10.4 plus 236. In the data context of the data set, identify one problem with using the regression line to predict gas usage when the average outside temperature is 23 degrees. times x. Well, let's put the value in. So y equals negative 10.4 times 23 plus 236. That plus 236. That would mean negative gas used. So that equals negative 3.2 megawatts. So therefore, you can't have, you need to find the limit behind it, but there'd be a point where it can't get lower. So therefore, the prediction is inaccurate for this model when using 23 degrees, because the output is negative. Cool. Doing well. Now what we've got left? A few more to go. 4 more to go. Here we go. So diagram below shows the triangle ABC. Calculate the area of the angle of area of the triangle to the nearest square meter. So we've got 60 and 25. Always do this so I fill in what I've got. So that's 95 up here. And what will we need to do? Let's find this side. So we're going to use a mixture. So we're going to use this rule here and then this rule here, because we want to find this missing distance here. So CB divided by sine 60 is equal to 12 divided by sine 25. So therefore CB equals 12 divided by sine 25 times sine 60. 12 sine 60 gives us that, and then we divide that by sine 25. So we get 24.59. So that's the first bit. So that's for meters. Then we're going to use this rule here, so half AB times height. So the area, we quote the rule, half AB sine C. And we know now that that's 24.59. So we get half of 12 times 24.59 sine 95. So answer times 12 divided by 2 times sine 95. To the nearest square meter, so that's going to be 147 meters squared. Cool. So we've got a back question. So the following formula is used to calculate the estimated blood alcohol content for males. N is the number of standard drinks. M is the weight in kilograms. Cameron weighs 75 kilos. His back was 0. When at 9 p.m. he consumes 3 standard drinks, his back was 0.02. Use the formula to estimate at what time Cameron began drinking. So his weight is M, so it goes down the bottom. So 6.8 times 75. His back was 0 when he began drinking. At 9 p.m. he consumes 3 drinks. So his back, we already know, is 0.02. And then that's equal to 10 lots of N, which is the number of standard drinks. So that'd be 3 minus 7.5 times H. So now we've got 0.02 times 6.8 times 75 is equal to 30 minus 7.5 H. So we go 75 times 6.8 times 0.02. So we get 10.2 equals 30 minus 7.5 H. Take away 30, take away 30. So negative 19.8 equals negative 7.5 H. Divided by negative 7.5. Negative 7.5. H equals 2.64. So then he started drinking at 9 p.m. after consuming that many drinks. So we're going, he's at 9 p.m. after consuming 3 standard drinks with blah, 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 using the formula estimated time when he began drinking. So it's going to go back in time. So straight away, take away 2, we're at 7 p.m. And then we want to take away that many minutes because it's to the nearest minute. So 0.64 times 60 gives us that. And then we do 60 minus that. So we get 21.6. So then to the nearest minute would be 22. 6 p.m. So he's here at 6:22. Started at 6:22 p.m. Person with taxable income of $90,000 pays 25.8% of that in tax, of that income in tax, excluding levy. What is the value of X in the table? Righto, so they're paying $90,000 and they pay 25%. So tax paid equals 90,000 times 0.258. So they've paid $23,220. So what bracket they're in? So if they've paid $90,000, they're in this bracket. So then this is the rule. So they're paying this much tax plus X cents for every dollar over $78,000. So amount over is equal to $90,000 minus the $78,800. So $90,000, 1, 2, 3, minus 78,800 gives us 11,200. Then X equals was going to be 23,220 minus the 18,000. Yeah, no, we're good. So minus the 18,292. Hang on, what am I doing there? So it's that as a percent. So we're going to go 23,220 minus 18,292. That gives us 4,928. then it's X cents for each dollar over that. So that part here is represented by that, which would be represented by that. So we're going to call that X amount. The actual X value then is the 4928 divided by 11200. 1,200. We get 44 cents per dollar. Cool. Random variable is normally distributed with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Table gives the probability of random blah blah blah. Positive values. The positive value given in the table represented by the shaded area in the following diagram. Yep, so if you got a z-score of 1.3 or 1 or 0 is there, so that's going to be 50%. And it looks like we've been going up here. The average male koala has a normal distribution of 10.4 and standard deviation of 1.15. In a group, how much would be expected to weigh more than that? So to work out the actual z-score, we can come down here. So x minus the mean over the standard deviation. So in this case here, it's going to be 11.93 minus the 10.4 all over 1.15. So 11.93 minus the 10.4 gives us that, divided by 1.15. So we get a z-score of 1.33. Then you just go off the table. So it's going to be that. In a group of 400 adults, how many would you expect to weigh more than that? So you're looking for this area then. So z-score, z value is equal to 0.9082. So we need to now work out koala percent over 1.93 is equal to 1 minus 0.9082. So 1 minus 0.9082, which gives us 0.0918. Koalas over 1.93 kg equals 0.0918 times 400. So 36.72. So therefore 36 koalas should be over 11.93 kilograms. Done. Cool. So hopefully that's giving you some insights into how to do the different things with this. So that should be a pretty good indication of what the exam should look like for 2023. If you have any questions, please pop them down below. I'm going to try and do 2 more of these just to give our students a really good advantage of seeing how to do these type of questions and see the writing out that is expected. The more you practice this, the easier it will get. So that's it from me. Make sure you practice. Really good strategy with this is to actually do the exam before you watch this video and then follow along step by step, and you should be able to see how to do it. Thanks again. See you next time on Steam It with Steve. Adios.